Thanks for joining us. My name is David Walker. I'm the director of the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center. Thanks for joining us for this webinar on PPP program. We're also going to be joined, we're being joined by David Castaneda with the Small Business Administration. He's going to give us an update on the goings on there, and then we'll have Joseph Dorko with the Small Business Development Center speak with us about some of the issues with taxation and the PPP. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to put them in the chat, and when Mr. Castaneda is done, we'll take a look at them, and as we go through Mr. Dorko's presentation, we'll take a look at them at that time as well. So it's all yours, David. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Walker, and good morning, everyone. My name is David Castaneda. I'm with the Small Business Administration. Like many people right now, I'm working remote from my home up in the Sierra Mountains. So just in case my internet does cut out, I guess we'll let Joe go ahead and proceed, and I'll try to get back in and eventually get through, just to let you know, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started. The SBA is a administration that assists small business owners and entrepreneurs in various ways. There's 4 programs we have, and the first program we'll talk about is our Economic Relief Program through our Disaster Assistance Office. So that's the first leg of the SBA. And currently, we still have the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that small businesses can apply for. And this is a loan where you do have to pay it back, okay? This particular program has been extended to the end of this year, so at the 31st of December of 2021. This particular program, if you do apply for this loan to help you through this period, get through the COVID, it's a for-profit business. The interest rate is at 3.75%. If you're a nonprofit, so nonprofits can apply for this also, the interest rate is 2.75%. Once you receive the funds from the SBA, you have 11 months before you have to start making payments. Once you start making those monthly payments, you have 30 years to do so. So it's monthly payments for 30 years, okay? If you're able to, you can repay that back early with no penalties, okay? So that is available. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the new information on slides, but I can talk to you about it, okay? So the other part of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan was what we would call the EIDL advance, which is Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance. And that's where individuals can apply for that loan, but they don't have to pay it back. Okay, it's used to pay for salaries of the business owner or their employees. Okay, that will be reinstated again very soon. It hasn't started yet, but that will be reinstated very soon. Okay, so that's another one that's going to be coming up for us. Many of you may have heard the other program that the SBA has is the Paycheck Protection Program. And let me turn the page here. As you can see, it did last year closed on August 8th. But we again have reinstituted this one. Now it's going to come to us in stages. Okay, so for the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program, this is going to be handled through community financial institutions. Okay, what those are, and we do have assistance for everybody that is free through the Small Business Development Center in Northern California area or throughout United States that can help you and walk you through all of this that we're going through, because there's a lot of information. But for the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program, it does go through certified development financial institutes or minority depository institutions or certified development companies or micro lenders. And that's for the first round for for several days or a couple of weeks. Eventually, it will be opened again to all the banks that participated prior to a greater amount of people. Okay, but they are sort of focusing on these certified financial institutes to help individuals in underserved markets. Okay, the other thing too, when they talk about the first draw, individuals that already have received the Paycheck Protection Program in the first round, um, they will have an opportunity to reapply, but only on the second draw that will be coming in the near future. Okay. So individuals that have never applied for the Paycheck Protection Program or applied but did not get it have an opportunity again to join in the first draw. Again, some of this might be a little complicated, but we do have our small business development centers, the consultants that can help you at no cost to help you through this. The Paycheck Protection Program, though, it is I think, a very good program to help small businesses through this because it will pay for several uh, different things, expenses in your business. The number one, the priority is paying for salaries, not just the owner of the business, but the employees. So if you use it for those purposes, and there's some other ways you can use it too, these loans are, you don't have to pay them back. Okay. So there are some good benefits to the Paycheck Protection Program. The next thing that, so we talked about the EIDL loan that has been extended to the end of the year. We talked about the EIDL advance that's going to be coming and the Paycheck Protection Program first draw and second draw and how that will eventually be out to the whole public. Then we have that is again going to be reinstituted is the deferred payments. So if you are a small business owner out there and you applied for an SBA back loan, our normal loans for either expanding your business or starting a business. And again, you do have to meet certain criteria when you started your business to apply for this. The SBA will then start paying your monthly payments, which is your principal, your interest, and any associated fees for a period of time again. So that's to, again, help relieve individuals that are in business that have an existing loan to help them not have to pay their existing business loan. The SB will pay it for them. Again, that's a loan if it was backed by the SBA in the first place. Okay. So again, if you have further questions on this, we do want you to reach out to your local small business development center and they can help you with all this. All right. So we're going to proceed to, let's see here. I want to go past this. Okay, right here on this slide, and Mr. Walker with the local Reading SBDC, again, they do have consultants, but sometimes we get individuals that are out of the area. And if you're in Northern California, but not really close to Reading, we do have our SBDC Finance Center that can help individuals, again, with preparing to apply for any of these economic relief loans. And also, like many of the SBDCs, they also are aware of the state programs that are going on out there. So there's a lot of good programs to help individuals during this period of time. So I would suggest you connect with your local SBDC. As you can also see on this particular slide, the Women's Business Center, which is also part of under the umbrella of the SBA, is also providing assistance with a lot of this economic relief for small businesses. All the services of these two organizations are at no cost to you. Okay, really quick, I'm going to go through this. So for individuals, there are some businesses that are doing good during this time, and they may need regular loans through the SBA. We still have our microloan programs, our regular programs to help people get loans from $5,000 to $5 million. Our 504 program to, if you're interested in purchasing a building for your business or property for your business, that is still ongoing. So that's the second arm of the SBA, is loan programs to help entrepreneurs and businesses expand and grow their business. And again, we can talk more about that, or you can with your local SBDC consultant. The third arm of the SBA is our resource network. For example, we're working right now with the Small Business Development Center right there in Reading, but nationwide, SBDC is the largest funder of the SBDC programs nationwide. So we're connected with all these small business development centers nationwide that you can plug into no matter where you're at. Every county is covered. Same with the Women's Business Center. Now, men, if you're also interested, they have a lot of good training and classes, webinars. It is open and equal to all. So Women's Business Center is a very good resource to utilize too. If you've never heard of SCORE, very good resource. You can check out their national website, score.org. Those are volunteers that have been in business, and now they are there to help and mentor existing or startup individuals to get into business and better run their business. SCORE is a really good agency or organization, again, under the SBA. The last one we have is the Veteran Business Outreach Center. Now, this particular organization, you do have to be active military or a veteran, and you do have to show proof of that, or a spouse of an active military or veteran to receive assistance through the Veteran Business Outreach Center. But if you are a veteran or in the military, you can utilize all of the services there. If you want to look at your local resource, go to sba.gov under local assistance, and you can find your nearest organization to help you. And let's see, lastly, we do have our contracting area. So that's the fourth arm of the SBA. So if you're looking to get into federal contracting, we can help you get into that. The SBA holds the special certifications for the federal program, and also some good business development programs within the federal government. For example, the 8A program, very good. So if that's something that you're interested, please go to our website and take a look at that. You can go to certified.sba.gov or just to our sba.gov website, and you'll find information about federal contracting. Okay, the other thing too, and the SBDCs do know about this, there are other organizations, for example, state of California and local counties that are also offering a lot of different programs and assistance to help small businesses. So plug in with any of those resources. For example, the SBDC, Women's Business Score, the VBOC, and they know a lot about all these programs that are going on out there. Lastly, I have to say, there's a lot of fraud going out there, so be careful of identity theft, okay? So try to keep up on that, and for example, don't click on links that you're not familiar with and who sent it. Just be very alert about identity theft, okay? So that's been on a rise lately. And that is the end of my presentation, and I will hand it over to Mr. Joseph. Again, these PowerPoint slides will be made available to you eventually. And again, plug in with the SBDC for further help. And I will be here till the end of the presentation if you have questions. So Mr. Joseph, I just stopped sharing my screen, and I think you're ready to share your screen if you're able to do that.
Let me, this is David, by the way. Let me just ask one question here from the group chat, at least one. It's, do you know when you can apply for the second draw of the PPP?
Okay, so the second draw that will be open for everybody, and that will be coming through all lenders that have participated before, pretty much, that there is no date quite yet. So on some of these, there is no date. It's just coming in the near future. Unfortunately, we don't have any date. So again, some lenders on the second round are being proactive, and they are taking applications already, but they will be just sitting in the queue until it does open. So there are some lenders being proactive. Again, I would say connect with your local SBDCs, because usually they are on top of a lot of things that are going on. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, good. Let's see. would you have to complete the loan forgiveness for the first PPP loan before you could apply for the first?
second round?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, if you did get a Paycheck Protection Program loan and you're using it or you have used it, yes, you can apply for the second draw. So if you haven't used it all already, you just got to show, yes, I will be using it all. So it is available to individuals that have already applied for it already. So yes, the answer is
Okay.
yes, you can apply for the second draw.
Okay. And then I thought the idle advance had to be paid back if you got an idle approved.
Okay, can you repeat that one more time?
It says, I thought the idle advance had to be paid back if you got an idle approved. You got an
Okay,
idle loan
so
approved, I suppose.
there might be there is a situation where if you got the idle advance, which you don't have to pay back, and then you applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is a forgivable loan, there will be a time where the SBA will say, okay, since you already got some money through the idle advance where you don't have to pay it back, that portion will be deducted from the Paycheck Protection Program. Okay, so it's like,
Right.
so you don't double dip. Okay, so that will happen.
Okay. And one more here. Just a second. Okay. So the 13th is not the correct date to open up round two?
As far as I know, I don't have a date yet. As far as I
Okay.
know, I just talked to the office and they said they don't know of a date yet for round two.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've had a couple of banks saying the 13th, but
Okay. And I'm yeah. And sometimes it's funny working within an organization. This has happened before. Yeah, things leak out before even the employees know. So, but as
okay.
far as we know, and as far as I was told this morning from my office, we don't have an exact date yet.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get going then with Mr. Dorko. There's already a question in here for you, Joe. Sole proprietor who has applied for PPP forgiveness. PPP loans are not taxable for federal government, but what about the state of California? And so maybe that's
Okay, that I've not actually even looked into that, but I do know that the majority of California taxation pairs off of your adjusted gross income from the federal with a few
yeah.
adjustments. So that is something we can look into and try to follow up with on that question.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share the screen. I know that there was initially some move toward having the state match the federal tax rules, but I don't know how that's working since this thing came out in December with the federal tax guidelines. Can you guys see the presentation here?
I don't see anything quite yet. It says you started sharing, but the screen is black.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I apologize. This happened yesterday too. Yesterday evening. David, I apologize everybody that this is happening to my system lately. David, I sent you a copy of the slides as well on the email. Can you perhaps open them up and
Okay,
and share
let's
it?
see if I can find that.
It's an email this
on.
morning.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Okay, I found it, and let me just go ahead and open it. And what I'm going to do is close my other PowerPoint so that won't interfere. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And let me open this new one. Okay, it's opening. Okay, so that opened. Let me put it in slideshow. Okay, and oh boy. Okay, it did something screwy too. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can,
Oh dear.
let me see if I can share it. Let's see here. Boy, I tell you, I know what you mean, Dave. Sometimes technology throws us a loop. Let's see if I can do something different here. Okay, right there. And I'm going to share this. And let's see what happens. Are you able to see anything?
We see it, yes.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Now I'm going to try to transition it to a slide.
Or we could go from
Let's-
this, that's fine. If you hit the, there you go, go ahead.
Okay.
Or hit enable editing.
Okay. Let's see. Let me do one more thing and let's see if I can switch screens. Okay, let's see here. Show. See, I don't want that. Doggone it. I think I just closed the whole darn thing again. I got to reopen it. Let me try one more time. Yeah, this, for whatever reason, your PowerPoint, it opens in all three of my windows, not allowing me to share
We
the
can just
right
go,
thing.
that's all right. We can just go from this. Let's
Okay.
just go from this.
Can you see that right there?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
PPP
so
loan
let's,
forgiveness and tax
all right.
implications.
Yeah, let's just go with that then.
Okay, if you could move to the next slide, that'd be great. All right, SBDC, Mr. Castaneda has already talked about that, so let's go to the next one. Perfect. This is our disclaimer. I encourage you to read this when I send the slides out. I'm not going to go through it right now because I don't like lawyers. All right, let's go to the next slide. Presenter is Joseph Dorko. He's a certified tax specialist and he knows what he's talking about. So Mr. Dorko, I'll let you take it from here. Thanks.
I'm not 100% positive I know what I'm talking about, but we'll go with what we got. Now that here we are, you've received your funding, you spent it, and perhaps you've even applied for loan forgiveness, but there's still that nagging thought in the back of your mind. How does this affect your taxes? Do you have to pay taxes on your PPP loan? Will you be on the hook for with the IRS for the PPP funds you received? So there is a link down here that you can actually go to read more about this. But we'll kind of go through the basics of it today and try to get you a good idea and point you in the right direction with this at least. Okay, so the first question we have is, how will the PPP loan affect my taxes? Second is the PPP loan of taxable income. Can I deduct the expenses paid with the PPP loan? And what are the potential tax credits that I can use in conjunction with the PPP loan and forgiveness? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, and tax implications of the PPP loan and forgiveness. So does it become taxable income? So after the passage of the CRRSAA into law in December of 2020, Congress made it clear that forgiven PPP loan is completely tax exempt and is not taxable income. Now, that is where it stands as of today. They may change it in the future, but I'm pretty confident they're going to leave it at that the PPP loan is completely tax exempt and not taxable. So that leads into, I guess, probably one of our next questions. So we can go to the next slide. Can I write off my payroll, rent, utilities as business expenses? Basically, the funds I use for the PPP loan, are those tax deductible if we're not considering the forgivable loan as income? So here's the best thing that I saw that came out of the new law really was that yes, you don't have to claim the income, but you get to deduct the expenses. So yes, while the IRS and the Treasury Department originally said otherwise, the CRRSAA in December of 2020 changed these provisions so that business expenses paid with PPP funds can be written off like everyday business expenses. And I believe that the original decision was reversed because certain taxes or certain businesses have higher taxable revenue. And I guess they saw that as not being fair across the board. So yes, you will be able to write those off. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so tax credits. The family leave tax credit for sick leave and paid family leave. There are credits for what you pay as an employer. And then there's an employee retention credit that actually goes up to a maximum of like $21,000. So these are some credits that really you want to make sure that your CPA, tax specialist, or tax professional looks into. And if it is something, if you prepare your own returns, you definitely really want to read up on this and inform yourself about this, because these are probably just as important as getting PPP money, because these actually help your business, survive here. This is in essence free money if you actually, apply it towards your tax returns, and and some of these are actually refundable credits. So like, even if you didn't qualify for the full amount, based on you only paid so much taxes, the additional money comes back to you, very similar to like an earned income credit, if you're familiar with those. If you've got children, you receive money for that if you have a certain income level. So, like I say, I want to encourage you to take a look at all tax credits that are available to you. Let's go to the next slide, David. Okay, so kind of give you this little background of the employer tax credits. The law provides employers with fewer than 500 employees with refundable tax or payroll tax credits to cover the cost of providing paid sick leave and paid FMLA leave for the employees. Specifically, the law states that employers will receive 100% tax credit against their payroll tax liability up to the capped amount of the benefits they must pay. And that is kind of a moving target right now. Currently, I think, I want to say, if I remember from looking at these, there's potential up to $7,000 per quarter on that. You can pay, I think, the health insurance cost with this. You can use this against any cost for health insurance. Self-employed individuals receive an equivalent credit. So if you're just like a contractor and you do not actually have employees, I think this one actually still does apply to you. If an employer is owed more than the capped amount and a refund is owed, the IRS will actually refund this as quickly as possible. So they start with reimbursements. So if you would have owed a tax on this, they reimburse that amount of tax that you've already deposited with them. And if the amount goes over the amount that you have on deposit with them, or were supposed to deposit with them, they will actually refund the difference to the total amount of that credit. So they will reimburse it as quick and as easy as possible. They'll probably do it electronically, like they've done with the most recent $600 payments that went out. They'll probably just actually attach it to your checking account. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. Can I get a PPP loan and take advantage of the retention credit, the ERTC? Yes, as of December 2020, with the new passage of the new law that came in, businesses now have the opportunity to take out a PPP loan and obtain the employee retention tax credit for both 20 and 21. So they are going back and allowing you to look at that. I think there's the first 3 quarters you're eligible for 2020, and I think the first 2 quarters of 2021 as of yet. But again, you want to look into that and ask your CPA or tax professional about that. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, the ERTC refundable credit limits. Additionally, the ERTC was drastically expanded to help businesses make it through the make it from March 12th, 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, to the first half of 2021. Prior to credit prior to the credit allowed for the maximum benefit of $7,000, about 70% of what you spent per employee for each of the first 2 quarters of 2021. They max you out at $14,000 for, I believe it's 2021. And actually, it looks like potentially, maybe I misspoke a little bit on that last slide. I think potentially, I think it's capped at about 21,000. But that is a considerable amount of money. So again, I do encourage you to talk to your tax professional and look into that. Now, I think there's some additional restrictions on here. We want to look into that, but we probably don't have time to go into that today. I think that they have a qualification on this. I believe what they do is they look at your, the same period in 2019 to see that if your business had dropped about 20% from the previous period from 2019 to 2020. And I'm assuming that's probably going to be the same baseline they use for 2021 also, is the 2019 tax period from, I think, the first 3 quarters of 2019, or I'm sorry, 2019 is your baseline. So there is some qualifications for this. They don't just hand it out across the board. But again, I want to encourage you to check with your tax professional. All right, and let's go to the next slide. There's also a provision here that says that I can defer payroll taxes while also getting the PPP loan. I think originally when they came out with that back at the beginning of the 2020 or beginning of the pandemic, I think didn't know if you could do both in conjunction. However, they are allowing you now to defer your payroll taxes as specified in the CARES Act from March 27th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. The PPP Flexibility Act, which was enacted in June 5th, 2020, changed the rules so employers could still defer these taxes even after the PPP loan is forgiven. I believe that a 50% of the deferred taxes that accumulated in 2020 must be paid by a certain date. And I believe that's the end of 2021. And then I believe you have the other 50% of the deferred amount must be paid by the end of 2022. So those are some other cash flow help that, you eventually have to pay this, but that could help with cash flow until the economy opens back up fully. All right, next slide. Can the PPP loan be used to pay business taxes? That's a big no. However, a lot of businesses will actually just pay themselves payroll, provided they stay within the limitations of that, and then pay that to themselves and then reinvest that as a capital infusion into their business and pay the taxes that way. I'm not suggesting that, but I see a lot of places that have done that way. But the expenses that you can pay with that, such as payroll, rent, mortgages, utilities, personal protection equipment, and business software, can be paid with that. But again, technically, the PPP loans cannot be used to pay your business taxes. So keep that in mind. All right, next slide. PPP loan forgiveness applications. The first place you want to start with is your actual service provider. That's who we check with first, because we have to do this on their specific forms. Now, if you wanted one of the SBDC counselors to help you with that, we are able to help with that. Currently, we do have some funding for that. The process can be confusing, especially if you're over a certain threshold where you actually have to send in all your documents. Now, my understanding is that they actually have just recently raised the limit to, I believe it's 150,000 or less. They make the application process a lot easier, but there still is, it's going to be lender specific. So some of these lenders really have a good grasp on what the SBA is looking for so that they receive the reimbursement from the SBA. And then there's other lenders that they're not aware of exactly what they're supposed to do, so they may actually collect everything from you. So in the application process with a lot of my other clients that I help through arranging PPP loans and EIDL loans, all this last year. I've actually kind of recommended that they not be the very first of the bank to run through the PPP loan forgiveness, but kind of start gathering information to find out what you need to do. And I think once these banks get a little bit better handle on what is going to be acceptable to the SBA, they may not make you do as much documentation, uploading a lot of documents and sending to them to the bank for forgiveness. They may just require you to hold that in your own personal files. So getting back to that, the PPP loans, again, I'm going to recommend you go to your servicer first, get a link, and then call somebody at the SBDC and ask them to actually step you through the process, because I've done a couple of these and they are confusing, and they are asking for a lot of documentation. That is something most normal business owners aren't aware of what they're asking for. So check with them first. Okay, we have a quick link here to show you about the second draw on the PPP loan. And I think, like I said, David went over majority of that. There's a quick link that you may be able to use to read up on a little bit more on that. That was put out by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And there's some pretty helpful information in there. I actually read through a portion of that yesterday, so I encourage you to go to that. All right, and next slide. Okay, there's one thing to note here, is that the laws surrounding these government loans have changed over the last few months. I would encourage you to continue to stay current with all the new changes. We will continue to monitor these changes for you and update this post accordingly. But I would encourage you personally, if you've taken these loans out, to stay current with the information. There are a lot of resources you can find here at the SBDC, and there's a lot of seminars that we do that you can follow along with that. And if you have questions, just reach out to one of us. We'll be more than happy to take your phone call and help you out with that. Okay, and so let's kind of just to wrap it up here. I wanted to open up the board here so that we could actually answer some questions. If anybody has any questions, maybe go ahead and put them in the chat if you haven't already done that, and then possibly maybe David, if you could read those to me, and then we'll do our best.
We have one here. Only forgiven PPP loan amount is non-taxable. How do we know if we're waiting 80 days? I'm sorry, for waiting 90 days for the SBA to decide on forgiveness? How do we know income to do our taxes?
Well, that is a decision you're going to have to make. And, you do actually have till April 15th. But you could actually, if you wanted to, actually, prepare with the worst case scenario that you're not going to be able to deduct every bit of that. And then there's always, you can file an amendment, or you could, like I said, estimate your taxes, send in your payment on what you think you owe on the 15th of April, and then, file an extension. There's that option. And quite frankly, I almost see that the IRS, and again, this is my personal belief, but I see the IRS extending the tax deadline till either June or July again this year. I've not seen any words on that, but I think because of this new law that came out, there's going to be a lot of confusion, and I think at some point they may extend that again also.
If it's, let me throw something out there, Joe, and maybe I'm way off base because I'm not an expert on this, but if the forgiven loan amount is not taxable and it decides it's not forgiven, doesn't it revert to a loan? And therefore it's not income, so it's not going to be taxable anyway?
Correct. The loan itself wouldn't be taxable. The payments on it, I don't think you can deduct the payments, but you can deduct the interest on it. So again, that's why I want to encourage you to actually work with an SBDC counselor to help maximize your loan forgiveness. Because my understanding is with a lot of these banks, you have one shot at this. You may be able to dispute it, but if it is not forgiven, then it actually turns into a loan. So, like I said, I don't want you to be the guinea pigs, but at some point we're going to start having to figure these things out. And like I said, the SBDC has some funding for us to actually help people through this. But a lot of banks haven't even sent the applications out yet.
Okay. Is the form 3508S available for PPP forgiveness, or do you suggest we use 3508EZ to start the process?
Well, I think the one ruling was if it was under 50,000, you could use the easy form. And then there was something else that I'm not 100% sure on, so I don't want to really speak too much on it, but there was a $150,000 threshold that changed something else also there. But again, you're going to have to use the actual specific form, the 3508S form that your actual servicer or lender sends you. The SBA has a couple online that you can look at as an example, or you could actually fill it out from that. Just do it by hand and use it as a guide for applying for PPP loan forgiveness yourself, or to just get an idea of what you may need to collect, so that when you actually go to fill out the application, you're not spending 8 hours doing this. I did help one of my clients through this last week. We spent 3 hours on this. We uploaded everything they requested, and then they came back and said that there was additional documentation that was needed. So this kind of leads me to believe that there's a lot of lenders out here that still are they don't understand exactly what the SBA is going to accept. So they're still learning also. They're still developing their system also. And that is one of the reasons I recommend all my clients to tread slowly with this, and let's not be the initial guinea pigs with it. Let's try to find out exactly what we need to do, so we give them exactly what they ask for.
This one might be more up your line, Mr. Castaneda. Business started in February 2020. Payroll records are in 2020. Can we provide info to qualify for PPP?
Okay, yeah, so there are the criterias of when you started your business. Unfortunately, I don't know what those exact dates are. Again, I do recommend anybody that is trying to apply for this, or even on the forgiveness part, connect with our local SBDC consultants or the SBDC Finance Center, because they definitely know the details, and they've helped literally hundreds of people apply for these things. So everyone is, individual case by case basis. So until they dig in and find out exactly what's going on with your business, they can't really give you the final definite answer. So what I recommend, again, is try to reach out to the SBDC consultants to get help with that.
I'm looking to see if either Mr. Radola or one of the other guys is on this call, and they're not. Shoot. Okay. Let's see if we can get a hold of them and get an answer on that while we're going here. Let's see. 1099s, some banks were accepting, not 941s. So is that acceptable to apply for a PPP? In other words, if you're paying on 1099s, that would be an independent contractor, so it wouldn't be an employee, so it wouldn't count. Is that correct, Mr. Dorko?
That's the way I read that. They're not considered employees.
Yeah, 941s would be employees. So
correct.
Does the first PPP have to be forgiven before we apply for round two? Does it have to be forgiven before we apply for round two?
From what I understood on that is, as long as you can show or prove that you will be using it, then you can apply for round two.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be forgiven yet. Is that right?
Or actually all used yet.
Okay. Let's see. What is the deadline for applying for PPP loan forgiveness?
David, wasn't it 10 months after you spent the money?
That, I think that's correct. Yeah. So there was quite a bit of time. So yeah, it's probably right around there, 10 months. Yeah, I would say that's safe to say.
Right. And they're bringing up, Jennifer Huber, thank you for this. She's bringing up that 941s weren't applicable. She's a sole prop, so she doesn't have the employees. It's just her. So, okay, I think if I'm missing someone, I apologize. I'm looking through. I think we've got everybody here. What I'm going to do in the meantime, if somebody else has something, feel free to put it in there. In the meantime, I'm going to put in a link. This is a link to a survey that I would appreciate it if you would fill out and let us know how we can improve, and let us know what you think. We do have another question. Is the ERTC something we need to apply for?
It's actually, I'm sure there's going to be a form on your tax returns that will need to be filled out. Either it's a worksheet or a actual form, and then it'll be consolidated onto the worksheets, probably 1 through 5 that you turn in with your taxes. So, but as of yet, we're still waiting to see that, or at least I haven't seen it yet. Here in the next couple of days, usually is when the IRS has all their new temporary updates that come rolling out. They used to have them out by the 13th of January. However, I think they might be running a little bit later. But that's usually when they get them out, is usually right there in that second week of January, because the IRS traditionally doesn't open up until about the 22nd for a couple of the big tax firms. And then usually the remainders open around 27th. It's somewhere around those dates. So they've still got a few weeks before they're actually going to push the actual temporary updates or temporary tax changes. So we couldn't even file in the first place right now, and the IRS is currently not open right now.
Okay, let me let everybody know here. Mr. Castaneda's slides, Mr. Dorko's slides will all be emailed to you guys. We'll also have a link to the recording of this presentation. Again, I apologize for the technical issues at the beginning, and hopefully we'll not let that happen again. And we'll also send in the email a link for the feedback, the same link that I put into the chat, and we'd appreciate any comments you might have, suggestions. What you're seeing here is how to contact us on the screen. That's our website, that's our phone number, that's Emily's email address, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact us. If you're not in the Shasta or Trinity County area in California, contact your local SBDC. If you're in Northern California, you can contact the Finance Center. There's a phone number, 833-ASK-SBDC, 833-ASK-SBDC. And that's our Finance Center, and they have answers to pretty much everything from EIDL and PPP to what's the meaning of life. They know all that stuff. So feel free to contact them as well. So if there aren't any more questions, I appreciate you taking part in this, and I appreciate you coming. Thank you, Mr. Castaneda. Thank you, Mr. Dorko. And we'll send all that stuff out to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker and Joseph. Good job on the taxes. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you. Bye.
Okay.